Hey everyone, welcome and thanks for joining. We are in the day 3 of this bootcamp. And we have completed the certification overview and the overview of Marketing Cloud on the day 1. And we have looked at the concept of subscriber data management on day 2. And today we're going to look at the email studio configurations, which comes under the channel management topic. I am Jyotsna Bitra and I'm joined by Natasha, who will be going over the email studio configurations. And I'm also joined by Gilda and Gina. And here's the exam topic and how it's divided into. So the channel management, it takes up to 16% of the exam and we can expect 10 questions on this. And we have divided this session in this topic into 2 sessions and I should say 3 sessions. Email studio configurations is covered in this session today, and Journey Builder, it will be covered in another dedicated session. And the mobile studio, advertising studio, social studio configurations will be covered as part of the Marketing Cloud products in a separate session. Why we have divided this topic of 16% weightage into 3 different sessions is each of these topics are very important, and these are the features, these are the main features of the Marketing Cloud which you will be using very frequently. So even though we can expect only 10 questions, our intention is to help you, make you more equipped with using these features. So email studio configurations is very important. So whenever you're creating the email, you need to be aware of all the configurations that can be made. And similarly, the Journey Builder as well, you should be, as a Marketing Cloud admin, you should be very well equipped with how to create the journey and what all goes into creating the journey. So we have created these as different sessions. So before we get started, I would like to go over some of the important items. This session is being recorded and we will be updating all the recordings after the bootcamp completes, which is after November 18. And if you have any questions, please post them in the chat window and we will answer them at the end of the session. And if there are any unanswered questions, please post them in the Slack channel. And also we have Ask Me Anything panel at the end of this bootcamp on November 18th, where you can have another opportunity to ask your questions and get the answers directly from the experts. And we will be sharing all additional resources and some homework for you to go back and refer to and then follow some of the resources. And we will be sharing them in the Slack channel under the homework and resources channels. And please share your feedback on Slack and or Twitter using the hashtags MC Learning Camp and tag PHXB2ZUG. And as announced earlier, we have 10 Salesforce certification vouchers to give away, and the eligibility criteria would be to attend at least 8 of the sessions in this bootcamp. And this and all the residents of US and Canada, excluding Quebec, are eligible for this. And yeah, all the winners will be announced after the final session. And now, without further ado, I will turn it over to Natasha.
Thank you. I hope you can hear me. Just
yes.
A quick sound check. Yes. Okay. Awesome. No, thank you for that very and the excellent introduction of the session. My name is Natasha. I'm just going to quickly put on my camera just so everyone knows that I'm a real person, not a robot. I hope you can see me. All good?
Yes, all good.
Perfect. Nice to meet everyone. There's 200 of you. No pressure for me, of course. I don't think I've ever attended a session this large before. I don't remember. I think JB, your last session was, we had 300 people. So super excited to be here. This is a wonderful bootcamp that JB and Gilda and the team from Salesforce and we all participate in. We've done this before. We've done it. JB has now done it, I think, 4 or 5 times, and this is a really good way of getting to understand what these different exams are all about. Like a quick run through all the material and getting some getting real insights from experts in the field. Like you saw all those pictures before. You've already heard a few people speak. You'll be hearing me speak today. I'm not as much of an expert as the others are, but I try my best. And after me, there'll be others as well. So I am going to share my screen and just let me know when you can see it. Just one second. I think Zoom wants some permission.
Are you able to share, Natasha?
I am trying to share. One second.
Okay.
I think it just wants my permission because my computer is not used to. Okay. Let me try again now.
Okay. So in the meantime, I would like to talk about the next session. The next session is on Thursday, and for the other regions, EMEA and APAC, it's going to be on Friday. The timing is 3 p.m. Eastern. The next session is going to be on setup. We have divided the setup topic into 3 different sessions. And this setup, the next session is going to cover about the permissions and security. The roles and permissions is going to be covered in that, which is very important. And we will also cover about the configuration of the integrations. Bolton is going to talk about that part of the setup. And the next part of the setup is on 10/28, which is covered by Coyote. And we have a session on 11/9, November 9th, which is on digital marketing proficiency, which covers the best practices and the compliances. And Vlad is going to cover that. And we have a slight change of time for that because Vlad is joining from Australia and it will be too early for him. So instead of 3 p.m. just for that session, we have it at 4 p.m. Eastern. And also people joining from other regions, make a note that the daylight savings are going to end on 7th of November. So it will be a slight different time for you after 11/7. Make a note of that, and I think your calendar will be reflected automatically. And
okay, perfect. JB, I'm good to share as well whenever you're
okay, please go ahead, Natasha.
Okay. Sorry for the delay. Let me know if you can see my screen.
Yeah, it's all
okay.
good.
Awesome. Okay, so welcome once again to day 3 of the bootcamp. And this is me. I don't have short hair anymore, as you could see. This is pre-COVID, back in the good days. Who I am, I'm a marketing cloud architect and a consultant. I live and work in Canada, Toronto, Canada. Currently, I'm the marketing cloud practice lead for Accenture Interactive in Canada. I am a marketing champion and the Toronto Marketing Cloud group leader, or co-leader. I'm sharing that with Lamine. And I've co-founded MA Incognita with one of the speakers, in fact, Tom Conant. He's going to be speaking later on in one of the sessions. I'm also certified in Marketing Cloud. I've been using this product for about 7 years now. So fairly familiar with what it does and its capabilities. Of course, the product is constantly evolving, constantly changing. Thank you, Salesforce. So it's I'm not always abreast of the latest changes, but I try my best. today we will be talking about, like JB said, Email Studio and its various configurations. I'll be also demoing some of their capabilities to you. And then I've got a set of 5 questions that they're very similar to what you may expect in the exam. They will not be the same questions, of course, but you can expect questions very, very aligned with those. So today, the full purpose of today's session is this little red box, all the content in the red box on the right, Email Studio and its configuration. And obviously, we've only got about an hour, so I've decided to pick and choose the most pertinent topics. I'm not going to overwhelm you with too much information, and I'm going to try my best to keep this as relevant, as high level, also a little fun because it is a dry topic. So as JB said, if you have questions, I unfortunately can't see the chat screen right now, so just type them in. We'll get to them as soon as the session is done. And let's get started. So I like to start from the start. My family teases me because when I tell a story, I go back all the way to prehistoric times, and let's just go set the context. Sometimes I overdo it, but in this case, it is relevant. And I'm sure a lot of you have worked with email marketing before. A lot of you probably know Marketing Cloud before. You obviously you have emails and you have inboxes and you receive emails. So why I thought this was relevant from a setting stage context was I use Gmail. I'm sure a lot of us use Gmail here. Others would use Hotmail and Yahoo and all the other mail providers. Typically, an email it appears like this in your mailbox. So we've got here in this example, I've got G2, which is the sender name. That's the individual or the company sending me this email. I've got thanks for joining us, which is the subject line. And then this little text after that, which is in light gray, we are so glad to have you. You are now part of, and text that I can't see, which is the pre-header. So when I click on this email, then the entire email body appears like this. Thanks for joining us. Subject line is all the way at the top. G2, the name of the individual or company, i.e. the from name, is right here, very prominent. Outreach at hello.g2.com, the email address that is sending me this email. So the sender email address is also very prominent, very visible here. Then is the email body. So this session is by no means about email build and email design best practices. So I'm just going to just skip that. But email body followed by the footer. The footer is also part of an email. If you start noticing your emails, if you haven't done already, most of your emails, if not all of them, should have footers. Those footers would have the address of the company and any links, unsubscribe links. So this is an email. This is what an email, by and large, is made of. Now in Marketing Cloud, how do you put all of this together? Like in its simplest most form, a marketer would go build the email, like for example, a G2 marketer would go build this entire email, design it. Then they would decide to send out this email, and to send in this example, and I'm simplifying it, like there's different ways of sending Marketing Cloud emails. One of the ways is by attaching or sending it to a data extension. A data extension is a table in Marketing Cloud that can contain data about subscribers. And a subscriber is just somebody in Email Studio that you are communicating with via email or even SMS. In this case, I've got a table in Marketing Cloud. The table only has one field. That field is email address. So I'm a G2 marketer again. I'll build my email and I'm saying, I want to send this email to the records or the data, the subscribers in this data extension. And then that email will go out. It'll be delivered to the subscriber in their mailbox, which is this situation here. That's what's happened. So again, super simple, very high level. But the whole point of this, what I'm trying to tell you is that this email, a marketer would have built all of these different components in different parts of Marketing Cloud. So Marketing Cloud is such an advanced and a massive platform that it's got different components, so different apps and different studios and builders where you put different things together. So for instance, the from name and the email address, like this little piece up here, this would have been built or created in the setup section. And we will be going through this in detail. The actual email layout, the body, the look and feel, the design, that would have been done in Content Builder, which is another part of Marketing Cloud. And then finally, just sending that email, attaching that data extension to it, saying, okay, this email needs to go to these people in this data extension. That's done from Email Studio. So there's like different parts of Marketing Cloud. And for people who are new to Marketing Cloud, don't worry, this comes with time. We know it because we've been doing it so long. You will get the hang of it. You'll know when you're building an email where that is created. You'll know when you're doing the high level, the footer and the header where that's created, and you will also know where the data work happens. The purpose of this session is this entire setup piece, but before I get there, I do want to spend a couple of minutes on Content Builder and Email Studio. So Content Builder is a part of Marketing Cloud in which think of it as a CMS, a content management system. That is where we would add images or text, content, documents in a very simple drag and drop way. And those components, all of those elements or those assets can then be used to build your emails or even your SMSs or landing pages. For today's context, we're only going to focus on emails. This is a great way to bring all of that content together that you want to use for emails, whether it's one email or multiple emails. You can reuse all of those components and you can build templates out of them. And you can, in Content Builder, you can also build the actual emails. So it's your CMS, it's where the magic happens. It's where you're building emails or the templates, which is the wireframes. It's the heart of the entire email building process. How do you get a Content Builder? I will be demoing this to you later on once I speak, but very simply, once you log into Marketing Cloud, you've got all of these little apps up here. So Email Studio, Mobile Studio, Social Studio, so on and so forth. And then you've got Content Builder up here. That is where you would go in, you click on that, Content Builder comes up, you click on that and you're in there. And once you're in Content Builder itself, this is what you will see. Something like this. I took the screenshot from my own account, but usually you've got this folder structure on the on the left. These are folders you would create, and this is how foldering is how you would organize all your different assets. So you might have folders by year, like 2021, 2020. Within the years, you can organize them by different months. Within each month, you can organize them by campaign names, and that's how you would organize your Content Builder CMS. On the top, we've got these two tabs, local and shared. Local is this whole concept of business units that I'm sure somebody will cover with you later. I'm not going to go into that today, but when it's like right now in the screenshot, I'm in local folder, which means all of this content is accessible in this business unit. And this business unit is a test business unit. If shared was highlighted, then the shared is shared across different business units. So that's another concept that, like I said, somebody will go through that. All the elements on the right is basically all of the assets consolidated across all of these folders. So right now, in all of these, 20 or so folders, I've got 166 contents. So that's essentially Content Builder from a very high level. Like I said, in the future, hopefully you will, or some of you who have probably worked with my Content Builder, you'll be using it a lot to build those actual emails. Now comes Email Studio. Now, Email Studio is where you actually go and send those personalized emails from. And Email Studio can be used to build single sent emails, like one-off emails. Those emails could be marketing emails, promotional emails, transactional emails. Say I forget my password all the time for every single account. Every time I click on update my password, I could even set up transactional emails like that in Email Studio. You could even, Email Studio also allows you to track your emails, like how are your emails performing. It collects all that data about your emails. Within Email Studio, you can also create data extensions, which we just talked about, those tables where you can add subscriber data. There's also another concept of lists. Lists is it's still used, not as I haven't heard it being used as much as data extensions, but list was this is another way of storing subscriber data, and you can also send emails to lists. You can import data into lists or data extensions in Marketing Cloud within Email Studio. You can test emails within Email Studio. As I mentioned, you can track email performance. So Email Studio is that part of your account from which you deliver all of those advanced messages. And to get to Email Studio, it's the leftmost icon here, or this left app. You would click on it, and then your context changes. And now we've within the Email Studio application, and the first screen is the Overview tab, where on the left is all the recent activity that your account has done, like last modified by Natasha Kalani, because I'm logged in as myself in this screenshot. On the right is a quick history of the most recent sends from your account, when they were sent out, their delivery date, and some quick data. So this is just an overview screen for a quick summary of what's happening in your account. Next, the Content tab in Email Studio is another way you can go to ContentBuilder. So if you recall, a couple of minutes back, we talked about ContentBuilder, which is where you build the actual emails. You can also get to ContentBuilder from within Email Studio. So there's two ways of getting to ContentBuilder, from within Email Studio, but also from the ContentBuilder application itself. And this is where once you go in, you can change emails, you can build emails, you can test emails, you can even send emails. Then we've got the Subscriber tab. Now, the Subscriber tab is where all of your Email Studio related data management work happens. Here's where you import data into your data extensions or your lists. You also create a publication list, which is another concept that, again, somebody else will be covering with you. You can create filters, so which are segments of your subscribers. So all of the data related work related to your email sends happens in this tab. So in the future, if ever you have to build an email, you will go to the Content tab. If you have to do any data work, like you've built a welcome email, that welcome email needs to go out to 100 people, you have to come to the Subscriber tab. You have to first create a data extension. That's step number 1. Then you import data into that data extension, step number 2. And there's many ways of doing that. Now, data extension, I touched on this earlier, but essentially, like I said, it's a table. You create data extensions yourself. They don't come with the account. That's something very critical to know. It's a table. You define the table's layout. You define how many fields it will have. You define the name of the field. Then you also define, like, here's a data extension we created. There's all of these different fields. If you look at the first field name, you also define the data type. In Marketing Cloud, there's 8 different data types, and it's important to know, it's important to define what the data types are. In the FUUID, it's an ID field. The data type is text. You also define the length. You can also define if it's a primary key or not. Primary key makes it unique for this data extension. It's a database, a relational database management concept. We're just going to skip that for now, and so on and so forth. So we've got this table built. Every email send, you can decide if you want a data extension built for that email send, if you want to reuse a data extension that was built previously. It's up to you how you want. You can get very, very flexible with how you work with data extensions. And there's a ton of content out there on Trailblazer and all of the community groups on data extensions and this whole data management concept. And this is critical to the work we do with email sending. Oh, I forgot to mention, there are 2 types of data extensions, and you have to define what type they are. A data extension can be sendable. Now, a sendable data extension, you can send to that data extension. It typically would have email address and a subscriber key. And when you're creating the data extension, it gives you that option of, is it sendable or is it not sendable? Non-sendable data extension, they're typically used, they're also called relational data extensions. They can be used to store additional data about your subscribers. So for example, if you've got a data extension that is sendable, it's only got the first name and email address, and you've got a non-sendable data extension that has purchase history. Purchase history just has somebody's ID and date and the purchase. So you've nicely separated the two types of data extensions, and you can link them in the future either through SQL or through AMP-script, which is a proprietary language. So this is also a concept that you can dig into in your own time, but this is also important to know. Interactions is a tab where you can create automated activities such as user-initiated emails. So I mentioned the email which I usually get when I need to reset my password. Password reset email or quick welcome email, or one of those user-initiated emails, those would be set here. So these are emails that we create in interactions, and then they have this concept called external key. And that external key is then provisioned, in a website or somewhere. Every time I say I need to change my password for Gmail, that external key is pinged, and this email is automatically launched. So there's lots and lots of different use cases that can be enabled through the interaction tab. Finally, tracking is a quick, like each of these emails is individually tracked. So here in this example, these are 5 emails that were sent out. Tracking is where data or the tracking data around each of those emails is stored. So how many emails were sent out? How many emails were opened? How many emails were clicked? What is the click-through rate? What is the open rate? What is the bounce rate? So here's where, as a marketer, if your marketer comes to you, or if you're the admin and says, okay, I want to know how my email performed yesterday, you would come to tracking and you would find that data. You can download that as a PDF or an Excel sheet, and you can use that to make future decisions. Before we can actually start using Email Studio, it has to be set up. So you have to prepare your account for using Email Studio before you can send out an email, or you can create an email and let it sit there, but you can't actually send it out until you finish some admin settings. And those admin settings which are done in the setup menu. So I'll just quickly show you where that is done from. I have to. You can still see my screen, right?
I can see, Natasha. It's all good.
Okay, perfect. So this is the Marketing Cloud. I showed you screenshots of this, but for those who haven't seen it, I have logged into this previously. This is the main dashboard. And these are all some of the apps that you saw. Here's Email Studio. You click on it. Here are all the multiple apps within Email Studio. So we've got an overview. Since this is a demo account, we haven't sent a lot of emails from this. Here's content. This is the content tab that allows you to go straight to ContentBuilder. So now we're in ContentBuilder, as you can see up here. And I've got an overview of all of the content in my account. Here's our subscribers tab. Here's where all that data work happens, as we mentioned. Here's the interactions tab. A/B testing, I skipped it for now because that's it's not relevant for our what we're talking about today. Tracking, which tracks how your email performed, and this is what that looks like. And admin. So there's 2 ways of getting to admin. There's one through Email Studio, but that's not how we want to do it. I'll show you the other way, which is under your name. So I've logged in as Natasha Gilani. This is my account. I'm going to go to Setup. So in Setup on the left, we've got all of these different features. Under Platform Tools, Feature Settings, Email Studio. That is where Email Studio admin is set up. So we've got all of these different, we've got from address management, sender profile, delivery profile, send classification, reply mail management, and the others. This is what needs to be set up, or some of them needs to be set up for like for sure they're mandatory, the others are optional before you can actually send out an email. So going back to my deck now. Okay, first things, from address management. Now, we saw in that G2 example that I received an email from, an email address that was associated with that from name. It was G2 at, I forget what it was. Every time you're sending out an email from Marketing Cloud, a from address needs to be associated with that, like in that example. You can create an individual from address. You can also import bulk addresses, up to 20 addresses. And this is number one. Without a from address setup created in your account, you will not be able to send out emails. Like you can't do it. So as an admin, it is your job to set this from address. Now, setting this from address is super simple. Like you've got your company from address, you can add that here. Where it gets a little more complex is that your from address or your from domain, which is the part after the at sign, like at gmail.com, at apple.com, needs to be verified. And why does it need to be verified? So the account knows that it can be used for sending. It's not just a spammy from address. So you're just validating that this is an actual from address. It can be used for sending. So there's 3 ways you can verify your from addresses. And this is also important. This is, I've seen this being asked in some of the exams as well. From addresses can be verified either individually. You can verify your sending domain as a whole, and they can be verified automatically through sender authentication package. I'll be quickly talking about each of these. For individual from address verification, that's super simple. You go there, and I'll be showing this to you in a second. You go there, you add the from address you want to verify, you save it, then you send a verification email. So since this is an email address, the owner of this email address would receive a verification email saying, this email, please verify this email address. And that person who receives that email can click on that link in their inbox, email address verified, and moving on, you can use that for your Marketing Cloud sends. It is actually very, very simple to do. The only caveat is you or somebody else needs to be the owner of that email address, so you can actually verify it. The second one is, and this requires a little more work. So essentially what we're doing here is, in the first example, you are only verifying a singular from address. So in the previous example, Natasha Gilani at appnovation.com was verified. What if somebody else, what if JB wants to use Marketing Cloud? And what if JB wants to start sending emails from Marketing Cloud from her email address? She would have to verify her own email address. So there's like the individual verification, you have to do that multiple times. If you are a company using Marketing Cloud, you can just straight out verify your sending domain. So say we have a company, applebees.com. Instead of verifying all our individual, like 20 individual marketing people's email addresses, we can say, okay, why don't you verify at applebee.com and get that done with? This is also fairly straightforward to do. This relies on DNS record management, but essentially what you do is you go in the system, you add at applebee.com or whatever domain you want to verify, it generates a token. You then go and provide that token to the IT team or your IT team that manages your DNS records or the DNS records for your at applebee.com, the website, the domain, and they will add the token for your domain. And as soon as they do that, and it doesn't take long, I have done it a few times, it takes just honestly, like no longer than maybe an hour or two. As soon as that's done, then in the future, all email addresses you're using to send out emails from the account, they will all be verified automatically because you verified the core domain. And this is a bit of a doozy in terms of the concept, but it's not that difficult. And I'll show you this as well. Like it's very, very simple. It's just that you need the IT team support. The third way and the final way of verifying your sending domain is if you purchase a sender authentication package, or abbreviated as SAP. Now, sender authentication package is a, a, a bunch of tools that helps ensure that your email messages reaches the inbox. This is for an additional cost. And these tools ensure that you get a dedicated IP address. You have link branding. So essentially what link branding means is that if somebody hovers over or your images, or they want to click on a CTA, a button in your emails, if you have SAP, then it's branded with your brand. If you don't, it's branded with a generic Salesforce brand. So this is a product that is very, very beneficial for all those companies that care about their sender reputation. A sender reputation is also a whole different topic, but essentially, as a marketer's goal is to get to people's inboxes. And there's many ways of doing that. One of the ways is to get SAP, and SAP ensures that those emails reach inboxes. Without SAP, your deliverability might suffer. So again, to recap, 3 ways of verifying your sending email addresses. There's individual, there is through your DNS record, and there is through SAP. Next, this is another concept that is for those who have not had a lot of experience with this. Bear with me. It's again, we get used to it because we've done it so long, but it gets in the beginning it might be a little challenging. So before sending an email, you have to define its send classification. So what is send classification? It's made up of 3 different things. It's made up of sender profile, delivery profile, and canned spam priority. All of these 3 need to be defined prior to the send in setup. So as an admin, your job is first to add the email addresses there, do all your sender authentication, verify your email address, and then come to send classification and do this as a next step, obviously in whichever order. But as an admin, this is a part of the checklist that needs to happen. So first, what is sender profile? Sender profile is the from name and the from email addresses for a send. So in the G2 example, packaging both, the from name is G2, the from email address as well, G2 at whatever, g2.com, for example, that's the sender profile. Sender profiles you can reuse them for multiple sends. So as a brand, most brands have a handful of sender profiles. So they would have the simplest brand, for example, a pet store. A pet store may have a sender profile that's info@petstore.com. That's their marketing sender profile. It might have a transactional sender profile for transactional emails. So there's many ways of slicing and dicing this, but at the core, it is the from name and from email address for your account, and you can reuse this. Once you set this up, you can use this from name for your email sends. How do you create a sender profile? 4 different ways. You go to the part in the account in the setup where you set up sender profile. You can either very simply choose from list. So choose from list means all the current users of your account. So right now you saw Natasha Gilani, I'm a user of the Marketing Cloud account. So if you're a marketing team and everyone has access to Marketing Cloud and they have their access details and their users, and you can choose any one of them and you can create them as your sender profile. You can also use or create custom sender profiles that can be done manually, and I'll show you how to do that as well. You can create dynamic sender profiles. So dynamic sender profile is a very interesting concept. In a dynamic sender profile, and I've seen this happen a lot in insurance companies, where I'm a marketer and an insurance broker comes to me and says, I want to send these emails. Here are all my clients, but I don't want them to go from info.bank.com. That's not personalized enough. I want them to be personalized. I want them to go from my name. So how do you do that? As a marketer, then I would go to my admin and I'll say, okay, I want to create a dynamic sender profile. So they would add a personalization strings, which is a way, like a very simple code here to pull that data from a sending data extension. Again, right now, I don't want to get into too much detail of what that means, but essentially you can make dynamic sender profiles to personalize or add personalized from names and from email addresses for that whole, for use cases such as I just said. Then there's a fourth way of creating sender profiles, that is through AmpScript. So AmpScript is my Marketing Cloud's proprietary scripting language. And using AmpScript, you can add a different kind of code here. It looks like ampersand, very similar to personalization strings, but it's slightly different. And you can pull data from a different part of Marketing Cloud. So say I have data extensions in Marketing Cloud. Some of them have broker name, broker email address. I don't want, and there's 100 brokers there. I don't want to create 100 different sender profiles for the brokers. I'll just use code here and I'll just say, add broker name here, add broker email address using that code. And that is how I'll create those AmpScript sender profiles. Both the dynamic and through AmpScript, these are also known as enhanced sender profiles. So I've seen this come up as a question sometimes, like what is enhanced sender profile and how is this set up? This is also a concept that you need to just keep in your mind, that you can create simple sender profiles, you can choose account users as your sender profiles, you can manually create sender profiles, but you can also create enhanced sender profiles through code, either through personalization strings or through AmpScript. The other slightly doozy of a concept is delivery profile. So delivery profile, this also has to be defined prior to you using Email Studio to send out email addresses. Delivery profile defines the IP address, header, and footer of your message. So in most cases, unless you have SAP, you've purchased SAP, which comes with an IP address, a dedicated IP address, you would choose the account default IP address, like it is here on the right. Header, it's up to you if you want to choose none. So a header is a part of an email address that is the top of the email. The email body that is the top of the email. Footer is a part of the email body that is the bottom of the email. You can decide, and a lot of the clients that I've worked with, they've always chosen none, and they've created the headers and the footers within the email itself in ContentBuilder. They haven't chosen this at all. It's completely up to you how you want to do this. The only thing you have to do at this step is you have to just choose for this delivery profile, what IP address do you want to use if you have a private IP address, what header do you want to use, what footer do you want to use. You can just go ahead and, as I said, just do none, but just make sure that at least for the footer, to be compliant, you've got a footer in your ContentBuilder that you can use. Finally, send classifications. This is also something that you need to select before you can build emails. Before you're sending out an email, you have to determine if it's a commercial email or a transactional email. Now, commercial emails must have unsubscribe links and physical mailing addresses. So commercial emails commercial emails are like marketing emails or promotional emails, or you're essentially asking people to buy something or you're promoting something to them. All commercial emails, and this is law, they need to have an unsubscribe link or a means for people to unsubscribe from them. And they need to have a physical email address. So these two, default commercial and default transactional, they actually come with your account. So when you're sending out an email, you need to choose, okay, is this a marketing email? Yes. Then let's select default commercial. And like I said, I'm going to show you how that's done. If it's a transactional email, then let's select the default transactional. When you select default commercial, then the system checks if your email has an unsubscribe link. If you select default transactional, the system will only check if it has a physical email address. In send classifications, the can spam priority part, you can also choose you can also select the priority of the send. If you want to send to go out immediately, which is high, remember high also costs more. if you wanted to be sent out at a normal rate, or if you want it to be a low priority. A lot of times with the clients I've worked with, we've just gone with normal, unless it is a mission critical email sent. So just to pause right now, I'll just show you some of these settings before I go further. So here's where we said, so how do you get to set up, like for Email Studio? Under your account name, setup, this screen comes up, and then we've got all of these apps on the left. So under platform tools, feature settings, Email Studio. Let's look at from address management first. So if you recall, from address management is where you add your from addresses and then verify them. 3 ways of doing that. Very simply, this is the simplest way. So I'm just going to do at gmail.com. This will not be verified, but this is just to show you. That's how simple it is. Like, I've got my email address, but as you can see, it's not verified. It's in the pending state. To verify it, I need to go here and say send verification email. I'm not going to get this, but in a normal setting, I would have received an email in my Gmail address, which would have said, click on this email. As soon as I verified the email from that, the status would have changed to verified. You can also import 12 email addresses for bulk. So Natasha Gladney and natashagula@gmail.com. Sorry, not 12, 20. And say I have a marketing team of 20 people, I can bulk import those email addresses or manually add them by separating them with a comma or a semicolon. And as soon as I do that, all those 20 email addresses would appear here. Then here's how I would register a domain. So as we saw earlier, I said, let's do applebees.com. And then if I do get token, a token is generated, I would provide this token to my IT team and they would do everything else. And that would verify my domain. So I'm just going to delete this so I don't have it here. So that's all there is about from address management. Right now in our account, we've got this domain verified, e.maincognita.com. This is the SAP through SAP. We've got info@e.maincognita.com. That's also verified. It's a user domain. And we've got replies. So we've got these 3 from email addresses that are already verified. And we did them, 1 through SAP, the other 2 manually through sending a verification email. Next, sender profiles. So sender profiles, if you remember, is the from name and from email address. In our account, we've got one set up, which is called default. The name of this is default. This is an internal name. This is not a customer facing name. This is just internal for your account. But this, if you remember, there's 4 ways of creating sender profiles. Either you choose a user from this list. We didn't do that. We did it manually. So we're saying every time we use the default sender profile, the from name will be MA Incognita. This is the name that is going to be sent to recipients' mailboxes. So in Gmail, if I get an email sent from this account, it will come as MA Incognita. The from email will be info@e.maincognita.com. This has previously been verified, so right now it doesn't let me do this anymore. That is sender profile. And sender profile is also very simple to set up. Click on create, and you can just give it a name, test sender profile. And like I said, this is an internal sender profile, so it doesn't matter. I'll choose use specified information, marketing, from marketing at e.marketing.com. Say this was a domain that was, if it has already been verified, I don't need to verify it in the stage. If not, I can even verify it here. And that's it about sender profiles. As I mentioned before, sender profiles can be, you can have multiple sender profiles. You can have a marketing sender profile, a transaction sender profile. You can also have sender profiles for different French and English emails, or you can have different profiles even for geographical reasons, and you can reuse them. delivery profile, this is what defines your IP address and your header or footer. So in our case, we've got, again, a default delivery profile. We want to use the account default IP address. We've decided to have no header and no footer. And we are making sure that we've chosen no header and no footer, but we will have a footer and a header in the email itself. If I choose account default, it will pick up default settings which have been set up under here, so company settings. So I'm not going to go through that right now. Right now, we're just saying the delivery profile we're using for emails will use all the account default IP addresses and no header and no footer. I send classifications. Like I said, the account comes with these two by default: default commercial, default transactional. Default commercial, you don't have to do much here. You just decide. You can also attach a sender profile with these, but right now we're not doing them. And your send priorities, low or normal. There's no high here. I believe that's because we are a partner account and we need to get that provision. So there's only normal and low. Like I said, apologies if this is just a lot of information. I will show you, I promise, how this all comes together at the end. Going back to the deck. Reply mail management. There's actually, I've seen quite a few questions that come from reply mail management. So this is a concept that would be good to spend some extra time on if you have it. Reply mail management essentially manages replies to your email address. So say I use a sender profile that is info@maincognita.com, and the from name is info, and I send this email out, and somebody receives that email, but now they reply to that email. Reply mail management then handles or manages those replies. And that is important because within this setting, you can define, okay, what do you do with those replies? Say those replies are going to a mailbox that's not monitored, then what? What if you have somebody who wants to unsubscribe from those emails? And so this is just a way or another setting you can set up within the system that automatically does tasks that you don't have to do anymore. And I'll just show you how we've set this up in our account in a couple of minutes, and you'll get a clearer idea. There's a bunch of optional features as well. And as the word says, these are optional. All the other features that we've seen so far, those you have to set up for your account. Like you have to set up your sender profile, you have to set up your delivery profile, you can't spam. You have to also do reply mail management to manage replies, or if anybody does reply to your email. Then there's a bunch of optional features that you don't have to necessarily set up. You can still send out emails without them. And I'll also show you a couple of them, especially the ones that are most irrelevant for you to set up. As I mentioned, these are not required for email sends. Test send thresholds. I've seen this also be asked in a few questions. From when you create an email, you don't have to send it immediately. You can test it. And there's this concept in Email Studio of sending a test email. So here in this setting, you can define, okay, you can send a threshold of how many email addresses you can send test email to. And this is a fail-safe in case you accidentally send too many emails, or it prevents you from actually sending an actual email to a live audience. So here in where it says 25, the system will tell me if I'm trying to do a test send to more than 25 people. It'll give me a warning. As long as I'm doing a test send to 25 individuals, whether it's a data extension with 25 people or typed in 25, I don't think that's possible. It will let me do that. There's also a maximum number of test send. So this is essentially, think of this as a fail-safe to prevent you from accidentally not sending a test send, but accidentally sending an actual send to your audience. So here, if your threshold, you can even reduce this to 5. Every time you're sending a test send to five subscriber or 5 test audience, the email will go out. As soon as you try to send it to 6, you will get a warning saying, you're trying to send this test send email to 6 people. Are you sure you want to do that? and then you'll realize, oh, oops, I made a mistake. I accidentally selected not the test send data extension, but the actual data extension. So this is also like a concept you need to get just for all intents and purposes. Once you set this up, don't worry about it. If ever you need to send tests, it'll just warn you if ever you're increasing or you go beyond the threshold. Subject and pre-header validation. Essentially what this feature does is it scans your subject lines, your email subject lines and pre-headers to make sure that you're not sending emails with spam words. So there's a bunch of spam words out there. There's you can, if you go to Google and look up, email spam words, there's stuff like sale and 100% off and oh my goodness, there's so many. So what this feature does is it alerts you, or it gives you a warning in case you accidentally send a spam word in your email. And why this is important, because spam is it's it's like the exactly the opposite of what you want to do when you want to get into somebody's mailbox or somebody's inbox. You don't want ever to do anything that's remotely spammy. This is an excellent feature. Like, I personally love it. What I do here is in this section, I add a bunch of words. So here I've added test, draft, proof. You can add a ton more, and I save it. So every time I'm sending an email and my subject or pre-header has any of these words that I've added here, it will tell me that you've got this word, go ahead and change it, because you don't want to send an email accidentally with that spam word. It will either be caught in spam traps, or it will be bounced, or your end recipient will not receive it. So you have to make sure that, again, at the end of the day, what your marketing team wants to do is they want to make sure emails are delivered. So you've got this as another tool, SAP as another tool. So there's all these tools and this amazing functionality within the platform that you can use to make sure that your email receives a mailbox. Finally, URL expiration. So there's a ton of URLs you can either add in your email. So URL, either click a call to action, you want to send somebody to your website, or you want somebody to purchase something. There's also some account default URLs that you may use, the profile center, unsubscribe link. All URLs that are used in Marketing Cloud will eventually expire, all of them. So here you can set what the expiration date should be like. And you can set a time between 60 days to maximum of 2 years, or 730 days. So it can go beyond 2 years. So you can say, like, for example, in our setting, we've said expire URLs after 60 days, because that's okay. That's a reasonable amount of time. Like, how many people actually go to an email that's 60 days old and start clicking on links? And you can also then say, okay, for expired links, what happens? If somebody does click on them, then what happens? You can have a system default URL that is essentially a redirect to a landing page. So this is a very plain landing page within Marketing Cloud that will tell you that that link is expired, do this instead, or go here instead. Or you can define a custom defined URL. So if your link is expired here, even after 730 days, you can select custom defined URL and route people who come after 730 days, like after 2 years, somebody remembered that, oh, I received an email from that company. I want to go and click on that link. That link has expired. Then what? So as a marketer or as an admin, you can go and say, okay, here is, if anybody clicks on that link, route them to this URL instead. And this controls the lifetime of URLs in the email. So this is also one of those questions that I've seen being asked quite a few times, like URL expiration. What's the maximum time that, like, maximum setting that you can select? That's 730 days. But you have to make sure that minimum you give people enough time. So 60 days is a good minimum. With that said, I will go back to the account itself. So let's look at reply mail management. In our example, so this reply mail management, this is used for all replies to the email address. Like, sender profile can be for individual sends. You can have multiple sender profiles. You can have multiple delivery profiles. Reply mail management, the setting is 1, and this is then used across the account. for us, email display name is incognita, and we're saying that reply email address of anybody who replies to any email that we're sending out from our sender profile, the reply will have to go to this email address. And if anybody replies, if it's an auto reply, like for example, if I'm taking time off work and I've got an out of office set up, and that out of office is essentially a reply, we can also say delete out of office and auto replies. So instead of those emails going to this mailbox, the system can delete it. Unsubscribe manual request. So manual request is if suppose I'm getting annoyed by this company that's constantly sending me emails, instead of clicking on the unsubscribe link, I just use one of these keywords, unsub, unsubscribe, remove, opt out, leave, or misspellings of these words. I reply to that. I reply to this email address and say unsubscribe. As soon as this mailbox gets it, reply mail management would say, okay, this person wants to unsubscribe. That person will be unsubscribed from future emails. Then you can also do routing addresses. So if say somebody is replying to this mailbox, but you also want that email reply to be routed to another mailbox. So say you're running a promotion or your marketing team wants people to reach out to them for a sale, but the reply mail address is something that's like a no reply address, nobody's looking at it. You can route all the addresses, all the emails from that to another email address, which you can set up here. So that's all about reply mail management. Here's the optional features. So there's a ton of them. You can decide if you want them enabled or disabled for the account. That's super simple. The ones that you should enable for your account should be HTML paste. That allows you to create HTML emails. Without this, you'll just be doing text only emails. So I've got in our account, we've got both enabled. So we can go and create HTML based emails, text emails, and use ContentBuilder emails as well. Send throttling is another feature in which you can decide, okay, if you're sending out 1 million emails or you're sending out emails to 1 million subscribers, instead of all of that going in a bulk, which will add additional strain to the system, you can throttle them and you can like break them out and space them out. So this setting, if you enable that, it allows you to do that. I usually don't do BCC emails because otherwise everyone will get too many emails. From name, drop down of users. This is, if you remember, if you're creating sender profiles, if you enable this, all the users of this account you can choose them as a sender profile in this setting right here. So right now we haven't done that. Email optional features. And profile link check is another important one. If you select this, then the system will make sure that when your emails are going out, it checks for a profile link. And a profile link, it checks for a profile link in your footer of your emails. Physical address, this is also something you should enable in your account because the system will check if your email has a physical address of your company or not. If not, it'll alert you. Unsubscribe link check, it does the same for an unsubscribe link. So these are important from a compliance standpoint. You want to make sure that you're not breaking any regulatory rules. Tests and thresholds, this is where you say, okay, 25 is when I get a notification. Anything more, you can make this lower, you can make this higher, and 1,000 is the maximum. So you can not send more than 1,000 emails, otherwise the system will yell at you. Subject and preheader validation, you can add additional, so say sale, save. You can add a ton more if you'd like. URL expiration, this is where you define it. For us, we are being extra cautious. We've said all URLs will expire in 730 days. We don't have to be this cautious. Like I said, we can just make it the bare minimum, which is 60 days. And here we're saying system default URL, which is the system generated, like I said, a very simple landing page that'll just give you a message saying that URL is expired. And that is all that is. So before I get to the questions, I just want to show you, like, I've been talking so much about the settings, but how do you use them? Like, what do you do? Here's how they come to life. So say I'm a marketer, I've built an email, and I'm just going to pick one of the emails that we built before. I'll say I want to send this email. So this is where all those settings come up. Here, when we're sending an email, you first select that email. Then you have to define, okay, what is the send classification? I'm going to say it's a default commercial message. Default commercial, then like we mentioned before, the system will check if it has the unsubscribe link and physical mailing address. What is the sender profile? I'm selecting default. If I had other sender profiles, all of those would appear here as well. For now, in our account, we've only got one sender profile, so we're choosing that. This setting also, it pulls out all the sender profile related information. So what is the from name? What is the from email address? What is the reply name? Reply email address. So this is the RMM piece of it. So if somebody replies to this email, it will go to this email address. And this is also what we're using to send it. What is a delivery profile? We're saying let's use a default delivery profile. Like I said, if I had another delivery profile, I could choose from this drop-down list and choose something else. This is also the delivery profile I've chosen, the default, the IP address is the account default, no header, no footer. This is where all of that comes together. So the next steps are we choose the data extension we want to send it to. I'm not going to do an actual send, but in our case, say I want to send this email to this data extension. Next, I can determine when I want to send this. Do I want to send it immediately? Do I want to schedule it? And send throttling, the setting we saw a few minutes ago on enabling, like we enable send throttling. Here is how I can actually use that in this setting. So for me, I'll say, let's send this email on the 25th at 12 p.m. and we're good. Next, this is a summary of everything I've just done. So it's telling me, okay, here is what the email looks like. Here is your from name. Here is your subject. Here is your from email address. Everything looks good. Here's what you've sent for delivery. And now information is correct. And I can schedule this and I'm done. And that is it from a demo standpoint, but let's go back to the actual question. So I can take a minute to pause here. JB, any questions you want or anything that's come up?
So we do have a couple of questions, Natasha. How do you want to do that? You want to cover the sample questions first and then go over the questions posted?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, let's do that. The sample questions are not going to take too much time because this is 5 questions, and these are based on what, like I mentioned before, we can have similar questions to these, but it's not likely that they will be 100% identical. First question. Northern Trail Outfitters NTO has a requirement to create a distinction between marketing and transactional emails in terms of from name and IP address for reputation purposes. Which 2 actions should NTO take in order to create send classifications? Option A, define a delivery profile. Option B, define a custom reply mail management. C, define a sender profile. D, define a subscriber specific from name. So the question is, how do we create, NTO needs to create distinct or make a distinction between its marketing and transaction emails. How can it do that? What are the 2 actions it can take? If anybody knows the answer, feel free to type it in chat. Again, I can't see chat, but feel free I can move to the actual answer.
So most of the questions we see here are A and C. Yep, almost everybody mentioned A and C.
Amazing. So that's the right answer. So define a delivery profile, define a sender profile, and that's exactly how you would do it. You would have a sender profile with marketing as a marketing sender profile, and a transactional sender profile, and delivery profile with a different IP address. So excellent. Question number 2, true or false? A sending domain or email address must be verified before it can be used as a sending address in Email Studio. This should be easy. I'm hoping everyone got that right.
Yes, everybody said true.
Well, perfect. Yeah, if anybody got false, we need to talk. Number 3, NTO enabled enhanced sender profile feature. So remember what I said about enhanced sender profile. Remember sender profile itself. The NTO admin wants to create personalized email sends to their customers using the names of specific customer service representatives. While the content of the send remains the same across email send, the marketer wants the from name to appear differently for each subscriber. What are the next steps for email personalization? Choose 2. A, create subscription preference to track users' behavior. B, create a workflow to update member status. C, create a sender profile that uses AmpScript to dynamically pull information from the subscriber attributes populated by Salesforce information. And D, create from name and from email attributes for the subscribers to hold the from information to include in the send. Pick 2. JB, tell me when to go to the answer.
Okay, I'm looking at the answers. C and D mostly. Yeah, I see all those answers as C and D.
Yep, it's C and D. So every time it
looks like we have
that's such
today.
Excellent. So every time it's about personalization of the from name and from email address, that's where we talk, and the word enhanced sender profile. That's where in your mind, think about AmpScript, think about dynamic sender profile, think about creating those personalized from names and from email addresses. This is a question, what different versions of this that are asked in different types of exams as well. Number 4, NTO purchased the sender authentication package SAP and is provisioned within the account. The Marketing Cloud admin wants to ensure the private domain is being used as the from address for email sends, and it has been verified. How can the admin meet this requirement? Essentially, how can the admin verify the from address in the SAP? A, register the private domain using domain registration. B, register each from address with this domain by importing a data extension and sending a verification email to each email address. C, the administrator does not need to verify the private domain. And D, register each from address with this domain individually by sending a verification email to each email address. So again, Marketing Cloud admin, there's an SAP. They want to make sure that the from address has been verified. How would they do it? The trick here, like in a lot of for those who had Salesforce exams or taken Salesforce certification exams, sometimes you have to look at like what is the trick here. SAP is the tricky part. So
yeah, we have multiple answers for this. Some said C, some A and D.
The answer is C. So when you purchase SAP, you don't need to verify the private domain. The verification is done within the package itself. So remember, whenever you see the word SAP associated with this, and then this is a trick question, and then the question asks you, if ever there's a question like that, the question asks you, how would you verify the email address in the SAP? You don't have to verify. It's automatically verified. So nothing, the administrator has to do nothing in this case. Final question. Sender Authentication Package is a collection of products designed to help ensure that your emails reach the intended recipients' inboxes. It comes with a private domain, so the from address, account branding features for link wrapping, dedicated IP address, and reply mail management. True or false? Every new Marketing Cloud instance is auto-provisioned with SAP.
We have mixed answers, true and false both.
The real answer is false. So SAP must be purchased separately. So it does not come with the account. It has to, the account is as it is. If, say, you are an admin or you're an architect and you're implementing Marketing Cloud and your client wants link wrapping and they want private IP and private domain, SAP is a product that has to be purchased separately. your Salesforce account executive can support you with that purchase. But for the most part, most of you got most of the questions right, which is excellent for an hour session. That is actually really, really good. And I'm sorry if I crammed too much information. This is a big topic. And I would really recommend that you do some reading on the side, go through the help portal, go through Trailhead, and read more about some of these topics. But essentially, if you get your mind around the concepts of sender profile, delivery profiles, and classification, you've got this section pretty nailed down. And with that said, I will pass it back on to JB if you want to close this.
That was so informative, Natasha, and you broke it down into easy sections, which is easy to understand. And I really appreciate you putting efforts into it and making it look so simple. And as we can see from the answers, we all understand it very nicely. And thank you very much. And we'll now move on to the questions. I'm going to share my screen, which has the questions. Just a quick moment. Okay, I hope you're able to see the screen.
Yes.
The first question, what level of HTML or CSS are needed to become an email specialist for an entry-level role?
For an entry-level role, and JB, correct me if I'm wrong, but I would say like basic email, HTML and CSS, like as long as you are learning or you've got maybe a year of experience with HTML, CSS, you should be okay. So HTML to get by. That's not my domain. I'm usually on the architecture data side. So I would like one of the other Salesforce experts to chime in here.
Yeah, so for an entry level, I would say basic level of HTML and an understanding of the CSS would be good. And also it would be good to have an understanding of the AMP script. If we were to include some dynamic content in there, the basic AMP script would also help. I hope that helps.
Yes, that's right.
And the next one.
And basic AMP, sorry, I was going to say basic AMP script you can pick up like for entry level. If you don't know it before, it's fine. Don't worry, you can pick it up as long as you have HTML, CSS, and you're learning. You can pick up AMP script as you go along.
Okay, and I see a great resource shared in the chat window as well. Please note that. And the next question, for verifying sender domain, is there any other dependencies other than DNS? Is there a way we can verify a big list of users without sending each individual verification emails or going via the domain verification?
No, unfortunately, I don't know if there's any way without going through domain verification of if you can verify a big list of users. You can import those users as long as they're 20 in bulk, but each of those users, those email addresses have to be verified individually from their end.
That's spot on, yeah. Or the test, draft, and proof exist as default. I think this was the question asked during.
For the spam words.
I think this is for the email configuration.
This is for email configuration, but for hold on, I'm just
I see in the chat. This is for subject pre-header validation.
Yes, I think they are. I forget how it was in my account prior to that, but I believe they are. But you can go ahead and add additional as well.
Okay. So, just as default. Okay. Is subject pre-header validation a new feature? And is that something you set up at the BU level, or you can do it once at the parent level?
It's not a new feature. I think it's been there for a couple of years. It's just one of those hidden features. And I believe that there's a few kinds of sends that you can use it for, not all types of sends. So guided send you can use it for. Again, JB, correct me if I'm wrong. You can, if there's something you can set up at the BU level or you do it once at the parent level, I think it's a BU by BU basis, because the BUs could be different as well. Like say you have a BU for North America and you have another BU for India, and those BUs have different types of subjects and pre-header validations. But again, I'm not 100% sure. I suspect that's the right answer, but happy to be wrong. Well, not happy.
Yeah, I think it's set up at the BU level. Yeah, again, I have to check that. We can answer that during our Ask Me Anything panel. And thanks to you, Natasha, you have explained all the topics in a very detailed manner, and it was very clear. And thanks to the attendees as well who are helping out with the answers. There were so many questions posted in the chat window, and few attendees have been answering them. And that brings us to the last question for today. What happens if you change the URL expiration after you have sent emails out? For example, if the email, if it was set to 6 months and after sending the email, you change it to 3 months, what will happen then?
That's a very good question. And I don't know, because I've never done this. I suspect that the email that was set out, if it was set for 6 months, it will follow the 6-month phase, but I'm not sure. This is also one of those things we'll have to get back to on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it would be the one which was set during the time the email was set. Yeah.
Yes, I suspect so.
That. Yeah. So any other questions, please save them. And we have seen a couple of questions on the SAP and the IP warming. Those will be covered in detail by Vlad on 9th, November 9th. So we can cover in detail about those topics, and any questions we can address them at the end of that session. And any other questions related to this session, please feel free to post them in the Slack channel or ask them during the Ask Me Anything panel. And thank you, everyone. And especially thanks, Gilda, for helping out with the answers and for the support. And thanks, Natasha. We will be sharing.
Oh, thank you.
And
thank you all. Sorry,
yeah.
Go ahead. I just wanted to thank everyone. It was a very, very interactive group. I'm sorry I couldn't interact. Like I literally couldn't see the chat while you were talking, but hopefully we'll have sessions in the future where we can all talk to each other as well. But thank you everyone for attending. And yeah, JB.
Thanks to you, Natasha, for putting time into this. Thanks everyone, and we will meet next Thursday, and the session is going to be on setup by Bogdan. And please make sure to register to all the upcoming sessions. And about the recording, we will be posting all the recordings after the bootcamp, that is on November 18th. And I think that is it. We will be sharing the slide deck in the resources channel of our Slack group. Any questions, please feel free to post it in the Slack channel. I thank everyone for joining today and hope to see you again. Thank you.